In the workshop I hosted 2 weeks ago, we reviewed the counting exercise. We looked at it from the point of view of the parable of the sower as these different moments throughout our day that we sow or we attempt. We attempt to sow the seed of self-remembering. And in that context, we also attempted to count it, which raised the question in some communities, what counts as self-remembering? What is self-remembering? And so I thought a natural or a reasonable continuation would be to look at this very fundamental topic, to dedicate a workshop to self-remembering, to our recent realizations of self-remembering, because it's an effort that begins and grows deeper, gains meaning in each of us. And so it's always nice to periodically check and see what kind of realizations we've had. Today, I want to also look at it from a specific point of view, an Eastern point of view. And as an entry to that point of view, I'd like to show these two bodhisattvas, two sculptures, separate, not immediately related, both from China, from different periods. The stone one on the left is quite a bit older than the one on the right. But as you see, the meaning or the topic that they're portraying is quite similar. What do you see when you look at this face? Arjun, what do you see? And remember, there's no right or wrong. Arjun is the only one who knows what he sees, so we cannot correct him. What do you see? How does this strike you, Arjun?
I see like sort of contentment in him. Like he's content the way things are, or you know, um,
Okay, very good. Contentment with the way things are. Acceptant, content with the way things are. How about you, Edward? Would you add anything to that observation? Again, there's no right or wrong. It's not a test. What do you see when you look at this very, very particular, very well-crafted Chinese Buddhist sculpture?
For me, the pose looks very relaxed but focused. And yeah, it's maybe some meditation state, but without any pressure, in a very relaxed, open way.
Thank you, Edward. Interesting balance, isn't it? Relaxed but focused. Very interesting, actually, if you think of it. Relaxed and focused. We'd think of focus requiring, or we could envision focus requiring a certain, contraction of sorts. None of that in this face. Very relaxed, but at the same time, very focused. So focused, Edward, that when you stand in front of this piece in the museum, it's in Shanghai, you can almost put your finger somewhere here at the kind of point that he is focusing. I remember it being a shock, actually, standing in front, not only this one, there are a few there in this room, and you could almost touch the attention. So vivid, so vividly is it portrayed. Yes. Any other impressions looking at either of these bodhisattvas?
Asaf, the way the eyes are looking, that slightly, well, very downwards focus, makes them look as if they're looking inwards. They're not really looking outwards, they're focusing their attention inwards.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Yes, an important observation, isn't it? In fact, self-observation is exactly that, isn't it? It's the directing of my attention inwards. And it's a function we have. It's a function we can do. It's a function we can develop. It's a muscle we can strengthen in the sense of it lasting for longer and seeing more things, seeing deeper things inside oneself. And yes, definitely one gets this sense of directing attentions inward, which is not introspection. It's not thinking about myself. It's observing myself. It's very different, two very different things, the distinction of which will be important throughout today's workshop. Yes, Edward.
The looking down side has also two reasons. It's very in detail described in the Buddhist text. It's one point is that the neck stays relaxed, because when the face goes up, the neck gets in a tension. And the second is not to feel when in meditation for longer time, the face or the head sometimes tries to go upwards. And this can create some feeling of I'm above all others or something like this. And so the advice is always a bit to look down.
Thank you very much,
From the old
Edward.
text from Buddha.
Thank you very much. So a certain humility, as opposed to looking down at people, you know, a kind of arrogance where I look down at you. There is a certain humility in it. Thank you. Actually, that's a kind of a unique insight, Edward. I've shown this in different communities and it hasn't come up, but it's certainly relevant. I want to point out this. There's a little seated Buddha on both of these bodhisattvas. And in general, the headdress, the crown, the tiara, if you like, is quite heavy. Both in the wooden one here and in this one. You see, we're looking at it from the profile, but you see the seated Buddha right over here. Now imagine, now let's look at it completely differently. It's just practically. Imagine I were wearing such a tiara right now. Imagine you were wearing such a big, heavy tiara. And imagine that Buddha was actually a separate sculpture that you had to balance. You know what I mean? That if you made a wrong move, if you went too extremely to one side or another, it would tilt and fall. But imagine you carried a real separate little stone Buddha here that you had to balance. In other words, what I'm trying to say is let's look at self-remembering as a balancing act. It's not one effort. One moment I need to veer to this side because it wants to fall this direction, but then I need to correct so it doesn't tilt the other way. It's a constant balancing and correcting, which one gets from this imagery if one looks or heeds this little seated Buddha on top. Here's another angle at the same idea. Again, Bodhisattva of compassion, Guanyin, it is called. And again, a little window there, a much more elaborate tiara. Also, this is a much later piece. So this is much more elaborate, but the same principle. The big vessel in the same state of concentration, but relaxed, carrying this passenger on its top that can actually look through this window. And what we're doing now, we're turning around and looking at the same Guanyin from the side, looking upward, because it's actually quite tall. We're looking upward, and here is that Buddha, in this case, standing, looking out that window. And when we think of something higher, something divine, peeking out like a passenger, then it is evocative of this. Because the master of the carriage, horses and driver, is also a passenger, very much a passenger. He is riding on this configuration. With all this in mind, let's look at the verse from the Upanishad that I believe is the origin of this metaphor, of this configuration. And it goes as follows. Know the self to be the rider in the chariot, the passenger. The body to be the chariot itself, the carriage. Know the intellect to be the charioteer, the driver, and the mind, the reins that he holds. The senses, they say, are the horses. The objects of sense, they're grazing grounds. The horses are always attracted. They want to go grazing. Like any, like any domestic animal. It will default to going somewhere where there is something for it to gain, grazing grounds. Now, when the self is joined, so when the self is joined with the body, the mind, and the senses, the horses, then the wise call him the enjoyer, the traveler through experience. So from this point of view, the real part in us, real I, the self that we try to remember in self-remembering, is this passenger in right order, yes, if we do it properly. Self-remembering is an attempt to bring forward this self. And in order to do that, we have to harmonize between carriage, horses, and driver. I'd like to see whether this definition or this approach helps us revisit self-remembering in a new way with new understandings. So, let's hear from some of you. What have you recently observed, or what is the effort you are trying to do when you try to remember yourselves? And let's see what we learn.